Alright everybody, welcome back into it. Haven't done a ranking video in a little bit, and anyway, coming back strong. But no, coming back with a kind of a smaller discography this time, a more manageable one. There's tons of groups that I want to tackle that have very large discographies, and some of them, admittedly, I'm like, I gotta fill in the blanks first, I gotta listen to the rest of the discography. And then there's also some ones like I recently did a slow dive one, and then I realized, how many bands that are like some of my all-time favorites, like top 30 bands, that I also haven't got to yet. Anyway, today's band is Finger 11, as you can see, and yeah, we're going to be counting down their records. So what do we got here? We got 7, because I'm including one that maybe people aren't going to include, and you can let me know if I'm right or wrong, but that's okay. So number 7, lucky number 7, or not so lucky in this regard, is going to be Life Turns Electric. Now, one good thing I have to say about this record is I saw them for the first time on this tour, and it was a really good show, but I wasn't that enamored with the material off this, and even in recent years listening back, it really sounds like they're trying to capture the kind of dance rock feel and the kind of surprise hit they had with Paralyzer, which kind of became their, well, it didn't kind of, but it became their most famous song, and it really crossed over into the States, which, they were used to getting a lot of Canadian airplay from their first album as Finger 11 onward, and One Thing was actually a huge hit off their third album as Finger 11. I'll keep saying as Finger 11 for a reason, because they did come out with another album first and then change their name. But yeah, unfortunately I can't really say there's any highlights off this. Really the only thing I gotta say is listening back to this now, I get good memories of that first show. I saw them with two of my best buds at the time, and I've seen them a couple times since, and being such a music fan and aficionado, I've actually got some pretty poor reactions from some people, like, you're seeing those guys, or, oh, I remember those guys, but man, they're such a good live unit, and some of their material still really, really resonates with me, otherwise I wouldn't be making this video. Number 6 is going to be, yeah, their most famous album, and I got it for $1, so I had to get the sticker off of it. I bought it a few years after it came out, and up to this point, I was buying every Finger 11 album as it hit, like on Street Date from Grayest of Blue Skies going forward, and yeah, I found this one. If you like this one, that's okay with me. Definitely tell me in the comments, respectively, but you're so wrong, like, that's their best one. I actually really like Falling On. I think that's a great song. Paralyzer, it is a good song. Lyrically, it doesn't mean that much to me as, prior Finger 11 albums, songs off Finger 11 albums, but it's catchy, it's well played. It just became so overplayed, like, up here in Canada, it was on the radio all the time. Like, they wouldn't play anything else by this band, and they kind of had that problem with a prior single, One Thing, which became a huge crossover hit and kind of eclipsed all their other material, and all the other material was better, but we'll get to that song later. That is probably the second best song off here, but yeah, it's just a good dance rock tune, but I'm not super enamored with it. I don't think lyrically it means as much as a lot of stuff that came prior. Again, if this is like your favorite Finger 11 record, that's all good, and I also gotta say, a lot of people joined on as fans here, and maybe some of them went backwards. I really would like to think that maybe, they went back and discovered some of the prior material. I just don't find the songwriting or the songs quite as interesting. I don't think they sound as unique anymore by this record as they did coming up to it. But saying that, this is still the most recent one. This came out in 2015, so 8 years, and in the last, 5 years or so, they've promised that there is more stuff coming, so they're not done as a band, and I look forward to the return. I saw them on this tour, and I think out of the 3 shows, it might have been my favorite, or no, maybe the second show. But anyway, but yeah, I actually like this way more than the two that came before it, as you can see. I think that experimenting has really done this band some favors. Come On Oblivion, to me, is the big highlight and is the best song they did post their eponymous record. But yeah, the Blackout song is pretty good. Not Going to Be Afraid is a really great song. I don't think it was even a promo single. It should have been a single. I think the worst thing about this record is Wolves and Doors was the first single, and when I listened to it, to me it just sounded like a song off Life Turns Electric, which already sounded completely derivative as of a Paralyzer kind of clone or whatever. Not that it's awful or anything. It's just like, aren't you guys gonna like experiment a little more? We were used to, for the first few Finger 11 records, every one sounded different than the one that came before it. And then they kind of they lumped themselves into a box, I think. Maybe they didn't know what to do and they wanted to remain commercially viable. I'm not sure. But, I'm not trying to take a dig at them. It's because I've always enjoyed them as a live unit since. And, after this one going down, like, I really like this stack of records, I gotta say. But yeah, this is good. This is going back on the right track, and I was really excited for more. I was hoping in, 2018, 2019, that they'd come back with another record. And, it hasn't happened yet, but, they're not disbanded. So, maybe something will happen soon. I saw them play with Finger 11. No, they are Finger 11. I saw them play with I Mother Earth. They did like a co-headlining thing where both bands played their own sets and then played together and did all these like cool cover songs, and they just looked like they were having a blast, and that sticks out in my mind. That's fun. But yeah, Come On Oblivion, I like when they're experimenting again, and I think it's about 7 minutes, and it's not a prog song, but it's kind of got some proggy elements, and I'm sure these guys like Pink Floyd. I think they covered Welcome to the Machine, but, that's just me going on another tangent. So, you can, if you're doing your own list, if you don't include this, that's fine, because it's the Rainbow Butt Monkeys. It's not Finger 11, but it's the same band. They just changed their name and they changed their style. But really, if they're going to change their name every time they change their style, they probably should have changed it like 3 times by now. But for years, they didn't want to be associated with this. The guitarist, James Black, he hated, I just read the word "we hate music," but he detested when people would ask him about the Rainbow Butt Monkeys, and they would shut it down. They wouldn't even talk about it. And then I think as they started to embrace kind of being a dance rock band around when Paralyzer hit and that, they kind of went back, and they weren't as like angsty, and they didn't they didn't turn away from answering questions about the Rainbow Butt Monkeys era. And I think they might have even played a set where they played either some of these songs or it was exclusively Rainbow Butt Monkeys. And to me, like, this is so much more interesting than those 2 bottom records. I wasn't quite sure whether to put this one at number 4 or this one, but I think this one suffers from that thing that a lot of records do, where the first half is way better than the second half. Like, the first 5 songs or so are definitely the best, but there's some great moments in Cake and Scrumpy. I was trying to listen to it recently because I actually forgot about a lot of these songs. But I always remember, and I think they were all singles, As Far As I Can Spit, Da-Na-Na-Na-Na, and Circles. Circles was kind of the one that was starting to break through for them, and they have a very funk metal sound, and it was very different than the next record, which would be the debut of Finger 11. But really, a lot of bands exist and change their names, and that's just what they did. Like, it's the same guys, they're just creating different music. And I remember when I became a Finger 11 fan, I was like, why are they so hostile when interviewers, they're just kind of like wondering about this era or whatever. But I guess they were trying to, creatively take leaps and bounds away from it. And, with such a silly name too, like, they were young men and they weren't taking themselves seriously. But I kind of like that. But yeah, awful band name. I actually thought when I was a kid that, this is one of the worst band names. But then, when you become familiar with the internet, and if you go on like rateyourmusic.com and see all those lists about bad band names, there's like 20,000 names way worse than this, but it's still a really bad band name. But it's a pretty cool record. It's just not very consistent, but Circles is an amazing tune. I would tell anyone to check that song out if they have any interest in Finger Eleven. And as far as I Can Spit's great, da-na-na-na-na. I don't know if I'm saying that right or not, but number 3 is the eponymous one, and because it's on kind of a cardboard thing, it used to be pure white, but now it's like my teeth. It's kind of turning a little yellow. But, you know, I'll take it to the dentist and it'll be okay again. And this one came with a DVD, which is cool, but yeah, this one is the last, like, really consistent one they put out, in my opinion. But, you know, those other 2 are great, too. And, yeah, One Thing became a huge hit for them and probably changed their whole trajectory. And unfortunately, it overshadowed the first single, Good Times, which was quite a big hit here in Canada. I think it went number 1 on the Much Music Countdown back when Much Music meant they actually played music. And I remember it shooting up to number 1, and I remember hearing it on the radio quite a bit back when I listened to the radio. And yeah, it was a huge hit. And then One Thing came out, and it had crossover appeal. So the alternative stations would play it as well as the pop stations. Like the top 40 stations were playing this song, and I just can't be asked to listen to it. I didn't really like it that much in the first place. It's got the guitar is quite nice on it, but the lyrics are so simple and too vague. It's like they're trying to dumb themselves down a little bit to appeal to everyone. Every other song on here is great. There's some great rockers. Conversations is a great song. Absent Elements, I believe, was the single that unfortunately followed One Thing, so it didn't do anything for them. And I get that song stuck in my head a lot. Like, it's got a really good hook in the chorus. Stay in Shadow, I think, was on some wrestling game soundtrack or something. Actually, no, I know what it was on. They were on a lot of wrestling video games, but it was on one of the Burnout games, which was a racing game, a great franchise that has been dormant for decades, or a decade and a half or something. Complicated Questions is a great song. The aforementioned Good Times, Last Scene of Struggling. Yeah. Anyway, this is the same producer as the following record, Them Versus Me Versus You, and Johnny K, but it's just way more inspired, I think. And I hate to say it, because I like when people get happy and are at peace with themselves and the world, but I kind of like Finger Eleven better as an angry band. But you know, like I said, I like the 2015 record, so when and if they come back with some new stuff, I'll be excited for it again, so there you go. And then this will be probably controversial to put this above the one I'm putting at number 1, and it was a hard one. Like, it's always so hard on these ranking videos, like which one do I put as number 1, because with all these bands I love them so much, and some of them it's between 4, but this band it's between these 2. And this has great stuff on it. This is the first one I ever bought from them, Grayest of Blue Skies, and I'll tell you why I bought this one. Of course, I was familiar with the first single, Drag You Down, which is probably their angriest, heaviest song. There's only one non-album single that is probably angrier. Anyway, that one was on a wrestling soundtrack, and it was about the same era, I believe, too. Yeah, Drag You Down and First Time, I was familiar with those 2 songs, and I was at an A&B Sound store, if anyone knows what that is, and I was looking for Crazy Town's The Gift of Game, I believe their album was called, the one with Butterfly, and then a whole bunch of nu metal garbage on it, though I like nu metal, but most of what that band did was, but I digress. Anyway, I was with one of my best friends at the time, and we were shopping around, and I picked that album up, the Crazy Town one, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting this, and my friend had his album he was getting, and his mom looked at the one I picked up and said, oh, but it has a parental advisory sticker, I think we should call your parents and see, and I'm like, oh, they don't care. I mean, I have other parental advisory. They know I'm a responsible guy, and I'm not gonna go out and, you know, swear at people and do violent things just because there's some, you know, nasty words and whatever on the record. And but she's like, oh, no, I think maybe get that one next time. but I don't think your parents would approve. I don't let my young one dirty his ears with these all this language. I guess my friend wasn't allowed to buy any rap records. Um, so I went, okay, well, I'm an easygoing guy, and I'm sure I can find something else. But I didn't really have a list mentally or a physical one or anything like that. So I was just kind of perusing, and then I'm like, oh yeah, this band. I mean, I liked First Time a lot. Drag You Down, I don't think I liked quite as much, which is weird. It's one of their best songs, but I think the music video almost scared me because Scott Anderson looks so angry, and I was like, why is he so mad? He's like reaching through the black bars going, ah! And actually, production-wise, it's pretty cool, actually, what they do in that video. It's just a performance video, but they kind of enhance it with this effect, which is quite well done, I will say. But it's Finger 11 at their angriest. But anyway, First Time was why I bought it, and man, I was pleasantly surprised, and I went out and bought the one that you're going to see at number one, like, instantly. And this was a new record. Like, I think it had just come out that week. So it was a happy accident, because it's way better than the album I was looking for at the time. It's produced, rather, by Arnold Lanni. I hope I'm saying his name right. I think I said it in the Our Lady Peace video, too. Lanni or Laney? I assume it's Lanni. And he produced Our Lady Peace's seminal Clumsy record, which is maybe their best one. It's definitely between that one and one of the other ones. And, yeah, I think the only thing I have to say about this record that's bad is most of the songs are all formulaic. They don't sound the same, but they all have that quiet verse, loud chorus, quiet verse, loud chorus thing. And I think a little more dynamics would be okay. Not every song follows that, but everyone except a few, really. Suffocate is a huge highlight. That just has such a chorus that just slays. For the Ocean is great, Sick of It All. Stay and Drown is a great closer. Walking in My Shoes, of course, is a Depeche Mode cover. Famous. Yeah, every song here is good, so there you go. And then most people would probably select that as their number one Finger 11 record. It's the most loved. I was going to say it sold the most copies, but it sold the most up to Them Versus You Versus Me. And then this one is my number one, Tip. And I went out and bought it like instantly after, discovering Grayest of Blue Skies. And this one is also produced, recorded, and mixed by Arnold Lanni. And, the only reason why I'm picking this over Grayest of Blue Skies is 4 songs. Quicksand, Tip, Above, and Awaken Dreaming. And specifically Tip and Above. Like, those are my 2 favorite Finger 11 songs, if I had to narrow it down. But if I was making a top 10 or top 15, it would be mostly tracks from this and Grayest of Blue Skies and a few self-titled ones peppered in there. And if we're counting the Rainbow Butt Monkeys, Circles is getting in there somehow. But really, I mean, I mentioned those 4 songs, but nothing else on here is a slouch. Like, Thin Spirits is a really nice song that you can find a really good acoustic version of online that they did for a radio show. Condenser's cool. Shudder is very memorable. Yeah, there's nothing bad on this record. It's a good record. It's quite of its time, like any rock album from 1998. But I think maybe if you're not nostalgic for it, it'd be like, why is this guy talking about this music, or why is that is number one from this band? But maybe there's some like-minded folk too. If you like this band, there's no wrong answer, even the one I put at the bottom. If you like it, that's totally alright with me. So, that's gonna be it for that. I prattled on quite long about a band that only has 7 albums, and 6 if you don't count the Rainbow Butt Monkeys. I just want to give shout-outs to Luke Chassi, I hope I'm saying your last name right, and Lennon FPV. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. More videos soon. Gonna start maybe having a schedule. He said that before. So peace, love, and music, everybody, and goodwill to all the good people out there. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.